is going to determine.
Bold prediction.
They're going to find themselves in the same exact position.
The same exact position.
Fighting for the playoffs at the end of the season.
It's going to come down to the last game.
This week, Lansing City against Shoreline, that's going to determine a playoff spot. That's the hot take. That game is going to determine. Mark it now. February 28th, Lansing City, Shoreline City. That's going to determine a playoff spot for one of those two teams.
Oh, FCS be streaming any women's games. Here's the deal. We are working on expanding our production team so that we can stream every single FCS men's and women's game this year. That is our goal, and I'm not going to promise it, but that is what we are trying to do. All 52 regular season games, including playoffs. 52 regular season games. So that is the goal, to stream all 52 regular season games. We'll see if we're able to do it. I think we will be able to, but we still have some stuff to work on.
Made a fantastic play. You know, you want to make that pass to the back foot and really give your teammate an opportunity just to slot it home first time, but Aldama was not able to handle it.
Midwest are able to work it up. How about this back post? A pretty goal. Raul Montañez doubles the lead.
Look, Aldama could not handle the pass to put it away himself, so he said, you know what, Montañez, I'm going to give it back to you, Raul. With a little back heel flick, just roll over, give it back to him. Montañez slotted it home.
Just outside of the outstretched leg of Cervantes. Not in a bad position. Blocked a little bit by his...
Seeing Riley McKenzie out there for the first game action of the FCS season for him.
Nice 1-2, some space on the far side. And again, Brandon Polish gets beat. Near post. And that is the one and only number 10. That put it away. Shota Takamatake. It's trouble for Innovation City early on as Jinga have piled.
Finals appearance for the third consecutive year.
Now, before we do that, your bold prediction for Midwest this year. Where do they end up? What's their season going to be like? You know, in a concise statement, your bold prediction.
Finals appearance for the third consecutive year. Finals appearance. Finalists.
Oh my goodness.
Final appearance. They will get into the finals again.
But they won't differ slightly. In fact, in all likelihood, it will differ slightly. We're controlling it here from our studio. But we're ticking down to the final moments. Shoreline City trying to put something together. Aldoni Mendez, he's shielding off Hasevic's toe post. Finds the back of the net. Shoreline's up by 1 with a minute to play.
Wow, Aldoni Mendez just showing his intelligence to shield the ball, to not let Hasevic come through, and just to prevent, I mean, Hasevic is pulling at him, just to prevent anything. Even if he gets pulled down, still gets the shot off. Wow. What just an intelligent play from Mendez to understand his body positioning and place.
Man, you know what would be a really bold prediction is if they don't get a first round bye. I think that would be
that would be. There were 3 red cards in that 3 red cards.
You could see it on their faces, like they would hit the post again, and they'd be like, what is happening?
And they only gave up 4 goals?
But it wasn't competitive.
In 40 minutes?
It wasn't competitive.
4 goals!
A sign that a fan has made, a fan of Goalkeeping Futsal made it. Chicago House is grabbing the sign, holding it up, and they're passing it around.
The ball sticks to his feet. Like, I don't think that you should have seen him at practice last night. He was just toying with this. I ain't gonna lie.
What level of crazy do you need to be a goalkeeper in futsal?
11. 11. No one woke up one day and said, I want to be a keeper today. I didn't want to be a goalie.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third half. We're off and away tonight for the podcast. Wow, what an exciting weekend we had, Gerard.
Yeah, it started off hot and it just got better from there.
And, 2 games this weekend. We're going to go over both of them. Before we jump into it, just give the viewers like 2 nuggets, one from each game, just to wet the palate a little bit.
New Jenga. We got a new Jenga. And goalie concerns?
Goalie concerns.
Coming out of Midwest?
Coming out of a couple of the games here.
Yeah.
So the first one that I want to talk about, and we have a recap coming in just a bit, is they said we have no audio. Check. Y'all hear us? Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear us right now?
Thumbs up in the chat.
Thumbs up in the chat if you can hear us. Yo, we're here. We're here.
We're here.
But are we here for you? That's the question.
Oh, no, it says we were completely lost.
Completely lost.
Now it's back.
We're having some trickiness here.
Oh, Ron in the chat's giving us a thumbs up. Brian can hear us.
Okay, sweet. So we're going. We're good. That's amazing. Great to hear.
Sometimes you do nothing and it fixes it.
So sometimes you do nothing. I guess there was enough of delay that we thought that maybe that message at the beginning was from before. So okay. What a hot start that was.
Yeah.
Let's just jump right into the first game. It was tell us who it was, Gerard.
Jenga, Futsal School, and Innovation City.
Jenga and Innovation, and this one was played at Cincinnati. Let's roll the game recap. Jenga at home taking on Innovation. Goal number 1. You didn't see it right there, but here it is. Between the legs of Brandon Bolish. That was how they started it out. Number 2, this is not the same goal, but it did go under between his legs once again. Shota Takabatake having a good time with the Jenga fans. And then now number 3 off the restart from the goalkeeper, putting it low for Jenga to go up by 3. That one to the near post. 7:30 left in the first half, and Innovation, they get one of their own. Corey Weisenhunt not happy about it. Now, check this out. They had a chance to make it a 1-goal game, but Corey Weisenhunt denies them at the post. Instead, it's Jenga the other way to put on goal number 4 again at the near post. Brandon Bolish was having a rough start to this game, and unfortunately, that rough start just kept going. He had a good save there, but got injured on the play. Couldn't get back up. Jenga took full advantage. I'm being told that Brandon Bolish will be out for some time. Now, second half, new goalkeeper Brendan Foster. He rolls into position. See him on this replay. Jenga score, but he hits it with his back on the roll. Jenga are up 6-1 off the corner. Shota Takabatake finishes another one. Jenga just kept going in this game. Of course, Takabatake living it up with the fans. But Innovation weren't done yet. Diego Pinto was able to beat Jason Quimzon to the near post after getting the shot by Takabatake. Now take a look at this. The punt goes. What's that? It's the goalkeeper's shoe. Yeah, the shoe almost went as far as the ball. Brendan Foster wanted to go. You could see the referee stopped the game there. And how about this? Someone said this is Showtime Shota with the rainbow on the far side. He did end up putting the ball across the face of goal. There was no one there. But just a nice little action in a 7-2 match. And Jinga finish it out with a open net goal. And they win it 8-2 in Cincinnati at home. And Jinga are going to be taking on Lansing City next. I got to fix this text ticker down here. So while I do that, tell me your reflections from that game that we just saw.
Yeah, so when the audience at home couldn't hear us, we talked a little bit about Jinga in this game and just a new look for them. They had a lot more possession than what we're used to seeing from them last season in the FCS last season. They were very committed defensively and laid back a lot more than what we saw this weekend. And it was really a nice change-up for them. And it's one of the things when we talked about Shota Takabatake and the steps that he would continue to take as he learns the game of futsal more, you could see it against Innovation City. You could see the steps that he took. He scored 2 goals, but it wasn't just the goals. I mean, it was even – you saw the rainbow flick. It's his confidence on the court is going to new heights, and he's somebody to really keep an eye on this season.
Wow, that was perfect timing. I don't know if you meant to do that. You planned it out.
Showtime Shota.
Showtime Shota. I love that. Shout out to Luke Miller who coined that phrase this time around. So let's put that up here. Oh, yeah, I got to do this one first. Boom. There it is. Oh, it's a little bit behind. We'll fix that. But Jinga on top 8-2. Innovation struggled at the goalkeeper position. So this was pretty evident right from the start. Brandon Bolish led in 4 easy ones, and 2 of them, they were, 5-hole to the near post. 2 of them were back post. One of them was like, it was like a 1v1, like, it's not like these are all of them are the easiest in the world to save, but it was definitely a huge shift when Brendan Foster came into the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we saw during the tour in Akron as well. So it was really the same type of thing. So it wasn't really a surprise. And I think it's one of the biggest challenges for Matt Nolan, being that Brandon Bolish is a co-founder, co-owner of Innovation City. When you have another keeper like Brendan Foster that's a stronger keeper, undoubtedly stronger, putting him in the net. And in a lot of ways, this kind of mirrored what we saw in the second matchup that day as well.
So obviously that puts them in a hole, and of course I hope Brandon Bolish is okay. He got hurt on that play, but it leads in a little bit of what we want to talk about later on. So let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. But it's pretty evident in the game of futsal, in the game of soccer, hockey, games that have a goalie that struggles at the goalkeeper position make a huge difference. I mean, I had a coach one time. Who used to say, if a goalkeeper makes 10 mistakes, that's 10 goals. If a defender makes 10 mistakes, that's 5 goals. And if a forward makes 10 mistakes, that's why they play forward. That's what he used to say. But it just points out just the gravity of the goalkeeper position. And it's not just what Innovation faced. Like we saw it last year. We're going to talk about it in the next game, the recap of the weekend, some of the things that happened there. But it can really impact the game. And even in this one, it ended up 8-2. But we saw in the highlight clip, there was a moment it was 3-1. And if Corey Weisenhunt doesn't make a really great save, getting back into position and leaning totally the other way and sticks his arm out, if he doesn't make that save, it's 3-2.
I think that's like a really great picture right there of the difference, right? We talked about that leading into the game of some of the availability concerns and issues for Jinga on the road, specifically the goalkeeper position. That might be a concern this year on the road for them as well. But Corey Weisenhunt's really solid, and you could see the difficulty level on that save. I mean, that's like a 9 or 10 for difficulty, right? Just diving. He's set up one way, and he has to dive across the face of his goal, and he reaches with his left hand back up over the back because it's going far post, right? And when you think Brandon Bolish got beat twice right below his legs. And one of the things that's really important in futsal to do when you're a goalie is to drop your knee for the save, right? So you got to protect the 5-hole, and he didn't do that at all on any of those. And so it's like, you know, how long has he been playing goal in futsal compared to how much time he had potentially as an outdoor goalie? And what has he done to make that transition? So Brennan Foster, somebody that played for the Pittsburgh Assassins, or I think they're AK Assassins. So it's a futsal team out of Pittsburgh. They're called the Assassins. So he has a background in futsal, and so there's a big difference right there. Right?
I mean, the game shifted.
It did.
Like when he went in, like Jinga was still controlling because they were up, but I mean, you saw him make that. Like he was diving across and he was rolling around trying to, the technique wasn't the greatest, but he was trying to get there, made the save and then eventually got scored on there. But I mean, how impressed were you with his play?
He had some really good saves, still let in some goals. And so there's a huge difference. But when we think about what we saw later in the day, I don't know if he's at the level of a Jose Vicario. And I know we'll get there later to talk about that. But definitely a big step up. When we go back to the tour in Akron, they had another goalkeeper that was more impressive than Brennan Foster, at least in the tour. And I'd like to see what he would look like coming back too.
Nick Wilhelm?
Yeah.
Nick Wilhelm. What did you like about his play in the tour?
It was really just his ability to stop shots. Like that's one of the most important things, because futsal, you're going to see a lot of shots come at you. You look at Jenga had 39 shots on the day, right? And like you said, if you make 10 mistakes, that's 10 goals. And futsal, you're getting 39 shots, and that's like a low number of shots in a match. So for me, if I'm Matt Nolan, and already looking at the roster for this upcoming game against Detroit Imperial, they only roster one goalie. So it's unfortunate that Brandon Balish got hurt, but in some ways this could actually work to Innovation City's favor of not really having that difficult decision to make of who to put into goal, and to be able to just have Brendan Foster go out and see what he's capable of from start to finish.
Aiden Hanchett in the chat, goalkeeping at futsal is another beast. Coming from a goalkeeper, he knows about that. It absolutely is. I mean, you saw it in our intro. It's there for a reason. We asked goalkeeper Vicario, how crazy do you have to be a goalkeeper in futsal, 1 to 10, and he says 11, right? Like you have 11. To be, like a little bit out of your mind to play. And I mean, it's
one of the
crazy.
Differences too, and it's hard to really see this on the tape, but when you have a more competent goalkeeper in the net and somebody that you can trust and rely on as a defense, it takes some of that responsibility off of you to protect the net. Like, you don't have to worry as much about what's going to happen behind you because you're solid. And then the other part, and I think this is the difference that we'll see specifically with Vicario. I didn't specifically see this with Brendan Foster, but it's something that I'll look forward to coming up, is how does he organize the defense in front of him? So it's one of the things when you think about some of our veteran goalies in the league, what makes them great, it's not only their ability to stop shots, it's not only their ability to be on the ball and to progress the ball and to distribute, but it's also their ability to organize the defense and to create some stability with the defensive structure.
More on goalkeepers and some of the goalkeeping woes, and also great goalkeeping performances we've seen in the FCS to come. In the chat, I see Luke Miller, look out for Tufani and Pinto this weekend. I'm excited to see Luan Tufani again. We're going to talk about their upcoming match in a little bit, so hold that thought, Luke Miller. Brian Reese, Jinga, Atlanta City this Saturday will go a long way in telling what kind of season Jinga has this year. Luke agrees. I mean, I think this is I mean, they came to Atlanta City Arena last year. They got beat handily. Atlanta City opening the FCS. We're going to talk about them a little bit later when we preview this game here, but, no disagreements there.
Yeah.
So let's jump into our next game, which was how would you even describe the way that game? I mean, it was just so exciting.
It reminded me a lot of the Chicago House Shoreline City game. Like very, very similar in the fact that Midwest United was in complete control, the same way that Chicago House was back in the showcase. and Shoreline City just found a way to claw back into it. And last time against Chicago House, it had a lot to do with the officiating. This time, it didn't have to do with the officiating. It really had to do with the goalkeeping.
So let's run it. Our recap from game number 2. Maybe it's supposed to be right here. I just see a black screen. Let's try again. Let's go back. Let's do this. Okay. Let's try one more time. Let's try one more time. That's so strange. We're gonna play this. Give me like a 30-second buffer, Gerard. Do something to entertain the fans.
Yeah, so one of the things we didn't get a chance to dig even deeper into, there was a player for Innovation City that did stand out, and it's Diego Pinto. I know Luke mentioned that in the chat as well about Pinto, and we didn't know a lot about him coming in. He's somebody that played for Cleveland Crunch, and we talked about that experience translating, and we didn't see it out of a lot of the players, but we did see it out of Diego Pinto.
All right, let's try it. Let's see if it does this. There it is. Hey. Yes, super loud. We're bringing it down. This is Shoreline City hosting Midwest United. To get it started, it's Fikret Hasovic going to the near post. It's actually supposed to be a 1-2, but here is probably one of the best goals that we have seen yet. Look at this ball movement. One touches to the back post. Could argue that Cervantes maybe should have gotten to that one, but that's goal number 2 for Midwest United. And Hasovic here, he's on the sideline saying, hey, give me the ball, and he's able to get it through the legs of Chris Mendez and back post. That's a tough one to stop as a keeper when it gets by your player right there. But Midwest up 3-0, started the second half, and they get another one going to the back. No one there to help, to the roof. Goal number 4. Now this is the chance for Shoreline to get into it. Take a look at this. On the shot, originally, the goalkeeper and defender, watch, both turn their head away. And then at the back post, Shoreline are able to get one. But Midwest say, hey, you know what? We're going to take that punch in stride. We're going to get right back to it. Ball across net. Jorge Saldanas to go up by 4 once again. Now, after we see this replay, Aldoni Mendez comes back on the court, 12 and a half. We haven't seen him much in the second half, and he creates this play at the back post. And Shoreline get their first win, and this is, look, where Anthony Leon is. He kind of was pulling up and left that ball open on the corner. 2-5. Miguel Cervantes coming up for Shoreline City. He creates this one and putting it away again. Look, 12-14, 15 seconds later. Shoreline getting the fans involved, and they're only down by 2 in a game that they were controlled in up to this point. 5 minutes to go. Aldoni Mendez again working down the sideline, and they pull within 1. Wow. Now, it's a tie game, 1 minute left. Ball in to Aldoni. He shields off Hasovic, pulled to the ground, toe poke to the far post. And that is Shoreline's 5th unanswered goal. And they go up by 1 with less than a minute to play. Now we're at 28 seconds. Aldoni had a chance to put it away right here, and his chip did not go where he wanted to. The next play, Hasovic, Leon, it's blocked by Matt, and he deflects it into the near post. Just an unfortunate deflection against Shoreline, and Midwest draw even, and this one ends 6-6, the same exact way that Midwest started the year last year, a 6-6 draw against Olay, but this time they had the 4-goal lead twice. In that one, they were trailing by 3 twice. So what made it different this time?
Yeah, I mean, you pointed out quite a few times there, just the goalkeeping errors, goalkeeping mistakes. That if Vicario stays in goal, I don't see Shoreline.
Yeah, that's the big question. That's the big question. And it's like, we talk about some goalkeeper roles. We're talking about it later, and it's never meant to bash any player or organization. But it's like, if I'm a fan of Midwest and I watch that game, and we have what I would be, in my opinion, one of the best keepers in the league. And he's not playing the second half.
And there's one difference here. So when we look at Innovation City, they have two older keepers, right? And so it's just a matter of like who they're playing, and it's not necessarily like playing for the future here. And it's one of the things when Jose Vicario was on our show, and we talked to him about keeping and why they split halves. One of the things that's important for somebody like Marco Narvaez, it's an opportunity for him to develop for the future. And so you could see that probably is the reason that they're deciding to put him in. But is the time to develop now? Is the time right? Is this experience beneficial, especially letting in those goals? It's one of the things we saw with Lansing City last year when they would have Ethan Castaneda in net, and if he give up a couple of goals, they'd pull him. And, that could be devastating for his confidence in that moment, but it allowed them to be able to stay in some games as opposed to Marco, what we saw, he gave up 6 goals. Vicario was in there for 20 minutes. The first half, didn't give up any. And so, that's a huge disparity. There's one other thing that really stands out. If you look back at the second, or third, fourth, and fifth goals for Shoreline, third, fourth, and sixth goals for Shoreline, there was communication issues, and that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. When you have somebody like Vicario in goal, just organizing the defense. I mean, there's literally the ball's just on a kick-in, and Anthony Leon and Fikret Hasovic can't decide who's guarding who. And you see Anthony Leon ends up guarding multiple people, and Fikret guards no one. And then they give up an easy goal, and that's where everybody's figuring out what's going on. Who's guarding who? And when you don't have somebody that has that composure and that awareness in goal to be able to direct the defense and to yell at people when you need to yell at them and get them lined up where they need to be, they gave up easy goals that should have never happened. And just a couple of times, so Fikret Hasovic, just on the top of the penalty area, just kind of slow recovering off of a block shot, and Miguel Cervantes, the goalie from the opposing team, beats him to the ball. Like, how do you let that happen? And that's the part for me that it's not only the goalkeeper really inexperience and opportunities for Midwest, but it's just some of these moments where it's like they just turned off. Like they're so committed offensively and structurally sound, but then defensively it's like they just turn off for moments, and those moments killed them.
Let's talk about Fikret Hasovic for a moment, a couple individual players. He was definitely one of the players that stuck out in this game. I mean, Midwest had some moments. One of their goals was very pretty. They, ping, 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 and it's going to the back post. But other than that goal, Fikret, I think, he created two for sure. Another one that there was 2 other ones that went, through him, and then eventually.
And he also had an assist on one too.
Yeah. So talk about his performance in this match.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges. So, it's easy to compare futsal to basketball, especially in the standpoint of when you have your offensive players that have a lot of time on the ball or a lot of time creating offensively, how sometimes they can struggle defensively because the effort's not there, because they're spending so much effort offensively. And that's probably one of the things that we're seeing out of Fikret Hasovic is he's spending so much time creating offensively that when it comes time for defense, it's just like he almost needs a breather or a break. And I think that's what you saw on the 4th and 6th goals for Shoreline specifically, where he just let Aldoni get behind him on one, and on the other, he just didn't commit to defend anyone on the play. He literally just allowed Anthony Leon to defend 2 different people and was like, well, I'll just hang back, and Anthony, he can figure it out.
And on the offensive side, we talked about Fikret creating those chances, and the lack of Daniel De Leon, I think, it does impact him more than you might think. He there's talent on that team, but there's a heavier load on him without De Leon on the squad.
Absolutely. And Daniel De Leon was the assist leader last year, so it's not like there's going to be a very easy transition to playing without him at all. Like they have to figure out what to do offensively, and it's one of the things. I talked a lot to Gio Garcia over the offseason, and it's like, hey, look, we got other players coming. They do have a lot of talented players, but they still need to figure out the offense. So another key component they were missing this weekend was Isaiah Meyer. Like he's another person that is creative on the ball. He can finish really well. He's really solid defensively, and would he have made the difference if you put, because Isaiah Meyer typically played on that line with Fikret, Daniel, and Anthony Leon, you put him in that line instead of Alan Lemus, maybe there's a difference just because of the familiarity. One of the things, even Gio Garcia had an outstanding game defensively, but it takes more than just 1 or 2 players. You need the whole line to be structured. And again, it really was a tale of 2 halves. They won the first half 3-0, and then they lost the second half 6-3.
Let's talk about the other side of the ball, Shoreline City. They're coming in their first, FCS regular season action. They had some FCS action in the summer. They come into this one. They go down early. They're able to rage back late. Really sparked by Aldoni Mendez. What were your thoughts on how he played in that game?
I can't say I was surprised. I expect a lot out of him this season. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the league, and he didn't disappoint. He's somebody that can make an impact at any moment, and we know futsal is a game of moments, and so for him to be able to have that ability to deliver with a clinical finishing touch, just with power and precision, with just a great level of balance on the ball, just composure. And that's what we saw. So that last goal for Shoreline City, Fikret Hasovic let him get behind, and that's a mistake in and of itself, but it still took an incredible amount of skill for Aldoni Mendez to be able to finish that, because Fikret was grabbing and pulling him from behind, and Aldoni's falling down as he takes the shot. And so it just shows the composure that Aldoni Mendez has.
Luke Mail in the chat. Is Midwest going to be two different teams win home versus away? We won't see them in home action for a little while. They're going to be going to Chicago this weekend.
I think that's a big test for them this weekend.
Yeah.
This is huge, because Chicago, this is the first time, this is the first action for them in the FCS during the season.
Yeah.
They did play over the summer in the tour, but that's it's a much different experience. This is the first time, and they're playing at home for the first time.
Yeah.
I don't see Midwest walking away from a win in this game. It's going to be tough for them. And I think that's going to be a big factor, going on the road. This is going to be one of their longest road trips of the season. And who shows up? Where on the street is, we're going to see Manny Bedoya again, which is great. He's somebody that had a huge impact in the tour over the summer. He challenged Luciana Cernuda for the Golden Boot in the tour, just scoring goals left and right. I think he scored 5 one game. So, get him on the ball. And again, that could go into what you talked about earlier of being able to create just some relief from Fikret Hasovic having to create on his own.
Let's go ahead and move on to the first preview of an upcoming match. It's this Saturday. We have just a full weekend of games, 3 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. So we'll do this one, and then we'll go to break and do the last 3 after the break. So Innovation City, they are back in the game. They're at home this time, and they're welcoming a Detroit Imperial side that we haven't seen since the semifinals. They were not a part of anything in the summer. So, what are they going to look like? That's a big question. Innovation at home. Now they have Luan Tufani. Brennan Foster started in goal. We saw some moments from Diego Pinto. What's your outlook for this one on Saturday?
Innovation City is bringing 8 different players than what they brought to Cincinnati. And so 8 out of the 14 players they're dressing, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And that's more than 50% of the roster turnover from one game to the next. And when you say somebody like Luan Tufani, basically the whole starting lineup outside of Diego Pinto is different.
Wow.
So that's completely different starting lineup, 4 out of the 5 positions. Jackson Davis is somebody that has a long background in futsal. We didn't get a chance to see him in Cincinnati. Andre Munoz, he's somebody else that is spoken very highly about out of Innovation City. So you bring them in with Luan Tufani, which we can't talk highly enough about what we saw to him in the tour in Akron. And then Diego Pinto looked really strong for them. And Brennan Foster was solid in goal. So that looks like it could be a pretty solid team showing up in a way that probably will look a lot different than what we saw against Jenga.
And for Detroit, it's the first time they're seeing the court in the FCS for several months. I'm sure that they played a lot in the time. We talked about it last year. They just trained a whole bunch. So for sure they've been at it, but we haven't seen them in the FCS or any of the summer things in the FCS. They didn't travel very well last year.
They traveled horrible last year. But one of the biggest things for Detroit Imperial is that they were splitting their attention from the domestic season in the FCS with international campaigns. So they went to Colombia and Costa Rica during the FCS season and played, which in some ways is really great for international exposure and experience for the players. But when you think locally about the FCS and the domestic season, it really put them behind the 8 ball, and they really struggled to have their best players available for all of the matches. But talk about goalkeeping issues and concerns that we talked about in those 2 games. Not a concern for Detroit Imperial.
Not a concern.
Not a concern. So Emerson Mena, arguably the best goalkeeper in the FCS. Frankie Mendoza and him they probably have some words about it, and I know Vicario wants some too. But Emerson Mena is so solid on the ball, so solid shot stopping. He's just somebody, you put him in goal, he's so reliable, so dependable back there. And
he's got loads of experience.
If
you watched the show when he was on, he talked about we had a translator here, which was amazing because he doesn't speak a lot of English. So he talked about his journey through playing futsal, and it was like his and we got to talk with him before the show too at length, and it was crazy how futsal was like the thing that was pushing him from one place to the next. Like it was
this
all
is the
that.
part that's so cool about what we're doing here with the FCS. So Emerson's Venezuelan. There was people in Venezuela watching the FCS games, and now there's more people that watch there, travel to Detroit, and are now on Detroit Imperial's team and going to be playing this weekend.
Wow.
And so, not to say that it's just because of the FCS or just because of Emerson that they're playing here, but, that's how the dominoes fell, and they're here now. They ended up playing in a street soccer tournament that Detroit Imperial won in Detroit over the summer, and it's like, hey, they joined the squad, So in a lot of ways, Shoreline put together their talent from street soccer, Detroit Imperial's pulling talent, and we talked about this connection with Jenga to Japan with the international kind of streamline of talent. Detroit Imperial's doing the same thing. They got Venezuela. They got 4 or 5 players from Venezuela on the team.
Wow.
They have 4 or 5 players from Africa, specifically Morocco. They have a player, Yaya. We should expect some really big things out of Yaya when he gets on the ball. Yaya Meska. He's from Mauritania, which is in the northwest portion of Africa. So you take this.
Is he starting for them?
He's starting.
He started
yeah,
for them?
Yeah, and he's somebody that Pierce Brannigan was really excited about. So if Pierce is
no Costa Wells.
Yeah, Costa Wells is not here this weekend. I don't think he's even rostered yet.
Okay.
And this is one of the big steps that we saw. So even though Detroit Imperial, we did not see them in action over the summer, that does not mean that they were not working actively to grow their brand, to grow. And so if you don't already follow them on Instagram, please do. Support them. They have such great groundwork for developing the club, and they've really worked on getting a new facility. So we talked a lot about Futsal Sala, which is their home location last season, and just really how it changed the flow of the game. Well, they worked really hard to get a different venue, and so they have a new venue that should be a much better experience. In a lot of ways, very similar to Shoreline. The place that they played, Shoreline, this weekend, what a great experience that was for fans.
Yeah.
They even had balcony standing viewing areas, which was really cool. And so hopefully the Detroit Imperial experience is very much the same and just a great experience for the fans. And one of the biggest things that Imperial did was you have to commit to the team. You have to show up, and they practice 4 or 5 nights a week. And if you can't come to practice every night, then you can't play. And I think that's one of the parts that we're going to see them really grow as a team this season, not only because all of their team members are practicing, but because they're committed to the domestic season. We should see a lot better roster availability for their road trips. In the first test, Innovation City on the road, it looks like they got a pretty strong team they're bringing.
So this game, how do you think it ends up?
Even with all of the changes at Innovation City, and even with Brennan Foster starting in goal, I think we see a very comfortable Detroit Imperial victory.
Very comfortable?
Very
comfortable. 3 or 4 goals?
5 or 6.
5 or 6
5
goals?
Or 6, yeah.
5 or 6 goals?
Yeah.
I think Innovation is going to do better than you think. I think Innovation at home with Brennan Foster in goal, with Luan Tufani back, and with Detroit Imperial's history of not traveling well. I know there's some names on there that we don't know about.
Yeah.
I think Innovation has more of a shot than we might think compared to just what the performance was like this past weekend. And I think Innovation, man, they're playing at home.
They're at home. But this is the part, right? So I agree with you if they were going back to Jenga with the revamped lineup. I agree. But I think Detroit Imperial's on another level.
And that's what we're going to see.
That's really where I think the separation in the FCS really occurs between Innovation, Jenga, and I think that the big step up is Detroit Imperial. the next team up from Jenga.
We're gonna see. I think it'll come down to some key plays. I think that if emotions get involved, that could be trouble for Detroit Imperial, and it could swing towards innovation. I'd like to see just like a really exciting nail biter to the end for Innovation's first game at home. But I think they're gonna keep it close and maybe pull it out. Maybe. We'll see. We're gonna preview the other games this weekend. There's 3 other ones. I mean, which game do you want to watch? All of them?
Yeah, all of them. All of them. 4 games this weekend.
4 games this weekend.
And look, and Aaron, you got a great point. Frankie and Andres, probably the best goalies from the stats perspective, but they're just because they split time so much, we don't get to see them as much action. I remember the first half of last season, we barely even recognized the impact the Ole keepers had at all. And then slowly over time, it's like, oh, wow, actually, I mean, Frankie's only getting 5 saves a game because Ole is so sound defensively. But yeah, like that. It's hard to deny that for sure.
So more on the goalkeepers, including the ones from Ole on the other side of the break, as well as the preview of the games that are upcoming. We're going to send you to our sponsors. Don't go anywhere.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
read red cards. And then
I thought I unmuted it. Maybe I muted it. I think I'm confused, but now I think I see it. This is all kinds of crazy, man. This is all kinds of crazy. We're working with just a new system, and we had kind of an emergency at the last second. So, thank you for bearing with us. Should be able to hear me now, and Gerard. So I think they could hear us the first time.
maybe they could.
Maybe they could. So let's talk about it right now. This is the headlining topic of the night, the title of the video, and it is the goalkeeping woes causing suffering. Mm-hmm. And this is not to bash goalkeepers or what the performance has been, in the FCS. We've seen tons of really good goalkeeping, and we've seen some bad. But the point is, when the goalkeeping position suffers, it really impacts
absolutely
the play of the team.
Yeah, and look, so Aaron Gomez, he brought this up about Frankie and Andres. If you just go look at last season's stats, Frankie led the league, 86% save percentage, but then Emerson Mena right behind him at 77%, then Jose Vicario, and then Andres Montez, and all of them over 75%, right? That's how many shots that they were saving coming in. And that's just the shot stopping. It doesn't even tell the whole story of everything else that they do for the team, because that's the other aspect. And I think that's the biggest difference that we see with these top-level goalies like those four, and then some of the other goalies that we talk about even this weekend that we saw in action.
So, one of the things that I think about when I think about what the struggles at goalkeeper were last year, we've talked about what that meant for Lansing City, and it's that impacted them quite a bit, in my opinion. And, people know that I have a connection with Lansing City. I played for them, and, Jeremy Kleppel's my brother. And, I've always said my heart's with Lansing City. People may think that I'm biased towards Lansing City, but I really think that the goalkeeper position was a huge difference for them in how their season ended up last year. I mean, definitely making the playoffs or not, but even, being in a top seed last year.
So last season against the worst team in the league, Midwest, who everybody blew them out by double digits. Every single game, I think except one game, was a double-digit blowout victory against Midwest. In the second minute of the game, for a home game against Midwest, Ethan Castaneda comes out and gets a red card. And it's a situation where even if he lets the goal in, it's like big deal. You're going to win by double digits anyway, even if they score a goal early. But he gets a red card, just really showing the immaturity. And then the very next match was against Detroit Imperial at Futsal Sala, which with that smaller court size, I think really plays into Ethan Castaneda's strengths. And that game would have been a much different match. They went on to lose that game, and then that really cost them with the opportunity to make the playoffs. Whereas if they had Ethan Castaneda for that game, and I think that goes into what we talk about, some of the differences, not just the shot-stopping ability, not just the ability on the ball, but the understanding of what to do, what the game needs from you in any given moment. That is so important from the goalie position because, again, 10 mistakes, you let in 10 goals. 10 mistakes, you might get a red card and not get to play the next match. And that's the part that was really damaging for them. They had a number of times, even in the tour, we saw they had another goalie tryout for them, Raziel Santoyo, had some really bad mistakes during the tour. So, let's see if that growth continues for them in goal with Ethan Castaneda. But again, the goalkeeper specifically for Lansing City was a huge concern last year.
Aiden Hanchett in the chat, he goalkeeper himself, facing lots of shots last year. Yes, you definitely did. We saw a lot of ones come at Midwest last year. But a team like, Olay, they have two, of the best keepers in the league. We saw incredible play from them. And this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up was the idea, and we've talked about this before, but the idea of like splitting halves with goalkeepers. In some cases, it really feels like a decision just needs to be made that like this goalkeeper is definitely deserves the spot and is best for the team to play, rather than let's split halves and we see two different results.
Yeah, I mean that's the part that's just it's so frustrating watching Midwest United this weekend, where in every regard they were dominating the game, and then they take Vicario out and put Marco Narvaez in, and then they end up giving the game away and end up just drawing. And it's like they should have won that game. And if I'm Vicario on the sideline, I have to think that I could have done a better job in goal. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges when you look to the future of developing talent. You sacrifice the now for the future. And if that's the decision of the club, I mean, that's fine, but you're going to lose games, or you're going to give away points, you're going to give away goals, and that might not even be the best thing for that keeper, because if they're not ready for the action to happen at that moment, you might actually be destroying their confidence, because Marco did have potentially the best save of the year. I mean, he had a phenomenal save, and it was just like this Dikembe Mutombo moment where he just blocks it and spikes it out. And it's like, wow, how did they not put the goal? They're 6 inches away from the net, and they still couldn't get in. Marco saved it. And you want a young keeper to have those moments, but what you don't want to have them have is just defeat, or goal after goal after goal. You spotlighted it during the replay. There was a time when Matthew Jackson looked like he was going to take a toe poke, and Marco closed his eyes and turned his head.
And the defender in front of him too.
And you can't do that as a goalie. Like if you're going to close your eyes, you can't play goalie. If you're going to shy away from contact with the ball, you can't play goalie. And Vicario, his teammate, said it best. Like, you have to be crazy to play goalie. And crazy, that's Matthew Jackson. Like, no discredit to Matthew Jackson, but he does not have the strongest foot in this league. And so if you're turning your head, closing your eyes, protecting your body as a goalie against Matthew Jackson, what are you going to do when Jeremy Kleppel's on the ball? What are you going to do when Sammy Escovel's on the ball? Like, those are players that hit the ball so much harder, and it's not just a toe poke. Like, it's coming full force.
Yeah.
And if you can't be prepared for that, how are you going to be prepared for these other players? And that's the part it's tough deciding whether or not to put them in. And I feel like we saw that tension out of Lansing City last year with really protecting their young keeper and not allowing him to stay in games and make mistake after mistake after mistake, but pulling him. And I feel like that's the only difference that I would have wanted to see out of Midwest United, either is to just play Vicario the entire match, or as soon as your young keeper starts making some mistakes, just pull him out. Because, again, when we saw Chicago House for the first time over the tour, they had their young keeper, Jose Escarino, was phenomenal in goal. And we're like, this guy's amazing. This is fantastic. And then come back into the national showcase. He was in large part the reason that Shoreline got back in, outside of the calls, and we'll leave that aside. He let in a bunch of goals, and you kept asking, like, what are they going to do? When are they going to make a move? And then they bring Sergio Castillo in, and he locked down the rest of the game. And that's one of the challenges, is you could have somebody that has phenomenal potential, but if their confidence gets destroyed, they might not ever see the fullness of who they could become.
Aiden Hanchett in the chat, he said his take, one of the last things we'll say on goalkeeping, he believes Shoreline to have the deepest keeper pool in the league. Mm-hmm. What do you think? I disagree, definitely. What do you think?
The deepest pool of keepers in the league?
I mean, there's talented, keepers on the league, but I mean, Frankie Mendoza and Andres Montes, right? That's pretty deep, right?
Jose Vicario, Emerson Mena, And I think there's just
on like one team, you know what I mean?
on one
Like
team.
Frankie and Andres, right? For sure. And you also have Emerson and Michael Forbes.
Yep.
Like to me, I think those are the two that I would say are, have the most first and second talent there.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other team that would have as much talent at keeper outside
those
of those
two.
two. Yeah.
Aaron Gomez, can't take away the fact Shoreline did have great plays to get the goals. And it depends how the game is playing out. Aaron Gomez was there. Yeah, I think our producer spotted you over there. Or actually, I think he didn't know it was you, but spotted some Olay players there. So we saw you guys over there. So, we talked about that match earlier, and Shoreline definitely did have plays that they made. But as far as how close the game came down, it was like, this is, Jose Vicario is a huge difference.
Yeah, and look, I trust Aaron Gomez's opinion on this, right? He's a really high-level player, and saying Marco had a great half, I just would have to disagree. There's a clear difference between Miguel Cervantes and Jose Vicario to Marco Narvaez. Like, that's what I think. Last year with Midwest United, when they had Miguel Cervantes and Jose Vicario, we just didn't see that huge drop-off. We didn't see that huge disparity. But, still, even between the two of them, right, like we saw Cervantes let in a few goals that, arguably he could have stopped. I know there was a one to the back post that went through the 5-hole of Chris Mendez, right, a little nutmeg on Mendez, and it's like, should he have stopped it? Probably a kick save. That's one that Frankie Mendoza is always stopping, and I think that's where the talent level is kind of setting the bar of what we should expect out of keepers, because if you're not at that level, then how do you get better?
Yeah, and the thing is, I think we've talked about goalkeeping on the show quite a bit, even back to last year, and I think the reason is it's just so critical, right?
Yeah.
And it's
the
hard.
Are so
I just so badly don't want anybody to think that we're trying to bash goalkeepers, because we're not. But it's like there's a huge spotlight.
There's no chance I could do it.
But there's a huge spotlight because when mistakes like that are made, last year we didn't see it on camera because we were remote, but we saw it, we heard it in the past. One of Lansing City's goalkeepers all but threw the ball into the back of the net. And it's like, when that happens, it impacts the game so much.
It does. And I think it goes back to this was shared in the chat earlier by Rudy. He talked about to get the ball into the net, you have to get past 4 defenders first too, right? And I think sometimes that we have a magnifying glass on the goalie when the ball goes into the back of the net.
Yeah.
But we're not always seeing what happened before. And we could blame the 4 defenders out there for what they didn't do or what they could have done better. But I think time and time again, when you look at the solid goalkeepers that we have, they're influencing the defense in a positive way. So it's not just on the defense, not just on the goalie, independent of each other, because it really works together. And the reason that Olay has such an outstanding defense isn't just because of the commitment of those 4 outfield players on defending. It's the commitment from the goalies as well. And I think that's why when we look at Olay and how strong they are defensively, so much of that is a combination of how the goalies integrate and how they communicate with one another.
And the thing is, it's also, we talk about it because we also have seen the goalkeeping position have a huge positive impact on games as well. There's games that it's like, Lansing City at Detroit Imperial last year, Emerson Mena is that was really the first game that we saw him play, and it was like, oh my goodness, he is the goalkeeping is the difference in this game.
Yeah.
And it's like you see
before he got hurt in that game, they were right there, and that was a difference. That was a turning point in that game.
Yeah.
Was he gets hurt and he played through it, which was amazing. But after that, let in some goals, and it's like you could see it so clear, the impact he was having, even in the final last year with Frankie Mendoza. And all last season, Olay really committed to playing 2 keepers, but in the final they didn't. In the final they played Mendoza the whole time, and he showed why. Like, he
Yeah.
showed the level that, and for every, for all intents and purposes, he made his claim to being the best keeper in the league, and it's hard to doubt that with what he showed us. I mean, he had probably the best save of the season with his, like, diving. He had, like, the one spinning save, just ridiculous. Just his agility from that position. And again, like, he's showing that he's making an impact at a higher level and not just being somebody between the pipes.
So, goalkeeper position, obviously super critical. Thank you for everyone that has chimed in with your opinion. And as we move on to the next topic, feel free to share your thoughts on that. What have you seen from the goalkeeper position last year, this year? What are your thoughts on it? Let's move on to our next topic. We are previewing the next game. We have 3 more games to get to. This is the second game on Saturday. Chicago House hosting Midwest United for their first, Chicago House's first action this season, and their first at home. Midwest goes on the road once again. Where's your head at for this game?
The biggest thing for me is who travels for Midwest. The first game of the season was a road game, but it was in Muskegon, which is really, it's basically a home game for Grand Rapids teams. But going to Chicago, that's going to be a big challenge for them. Who will show up to that match, and who are they going to play in net? Like, that's my question is, are they going to play Vicario the whole time? If they play Vicario the whole time, they could probably pull it out. But if they're going to split time again, I see Chicago House walking away with it.
Chicago House, I think it's going to be so cool to see them play at home.
Yeah.
This team really has a culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just get the feeling I just would be so surprised if we turn on the stream and there's like the home environment is just like kind of weak. Like, I would just be so shocked. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think this is, if I were to circle a game this weekend, I would circle.
The Shoreline one?
I would circle this one first. I would circle this one first
because it's the first time we're seeing them.
And then
I'm really excited about the Shoreline game because that matchup over the showcase was just so intense, and you have both new to the league, both wanting to prove themselves again based on that matchup. And really, I think in a lot of ways, Chicago. Oh, we'll get to that game, but this is going to be huge for them. First time in action. Who are we going to see for House as well? Because they have so much young talent, so much talent. They are so deep. Yeah. I'm really excited to see how Chicago's talked about having 3 lines of depth. And that is what has made Ole so successful, is having so much depth.
So will we see that?
Will we see that from Chicago?
Because we didn't see it in the summer.
We didn't.
We saw, in the games they performed the best, it was like Rafael Hernandez is on the court like 95% of the game. Vinny De Silva was on the court for like 90% of the game. So, like, we definitely did not see 3 lines.
And going back to when we saw them in the showcase, the first day – they played 2 games, and Vinny De Silva didn't really have an impact. Come to find out, we're like, what's going on? He was sick during that time. And so he muscled through it in the game against Shoreline, still battling sickness. But there's a lot of ways like channeling his inner Michael Jordan in the flu game, Chicago experience there. But seeing them at full health and full roster availability for a home game, it's going to be exciting. Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Gomez in the chat, looking forward to Chicago House and Shoreline. Also, he mentioned something about keepers that is so important, about how good keepers are on their feet. And this was like outside of the poor performance from Midwest and goalkeeping in the second half. One of the other we barely even talked about Cervantes on the ball. There was 2 key factors in the attack for Shoreline, and one of them in the second half was Miguel Cervantes coming up and applying that pressure. In the second half. I did mention that there was a goal. It was like the 4th goal that Shoreline scored where Fikret Hasovic was just kind of slow getting to a rebound, but we can't take away the effort from
Cervantes.
For Cervantes.
Yeah.
It was
to get the assist there.
He got the assist on a slide tackle.
Yeah.
He comes sliding in, wins the ball from Fikret, and passes it in one action and gets the assist. And it's like, he's a goalie?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
That's
and
a
that
goalie.
That was the thing is they put a bunch of pressure on. And I know we're not talking about this game anymore for just a second, but I'll just go to the other guy. But they put a lot of pressure on Midwest in the second half.
Yep.
And they didn't ever get punished for bringing him up. And Midwest gets one open goal.
So look, to transition back to Chicago House, I think that's really, for me, the difference for them against Midwest is they are going to put so much pressure on Midwest because Midwest, they got caught out defensively, and this is where not having Vicario on goals is going to hurt them really bad because Chicago House is so aggressive. They will put a lot of shots. They're going to be very creative on the ball. They got they will have some of the best ball skills team players in the league this year.
Wow.
Yeah, they will. Like, coming out of Chicago, they have some technical skills.
Mark it. That's it. That's
Mark
it.
it. They got some technical
skills.
skills.
Gerard is saying.
We already saw a rainbow flick this past weekend, and we already got Rafael Hernandez like, oh, now I got to get 2 flicks. I got to get 2 flicks this weekend to compensate for Shota. But look, that's where, one of the people like Choco Sereno, we saw him in the showcase, and what really stood out was his ball handling. And when you put the talent together with the technical skill, with the understanding of futsal, and for me, again, to go back to what we talked about with innovation and Jenga, and really there being like a clear line of delineation for teams like Chicago and Detroit and some of the other teams, it's because of the commitment to futsal and how important the technical skill is to futsal. Because if you can't maintain possession of the ball, you're going to put your defense in a really tough position, and for me, that's the important part of why we'll see Chicago walk away with a victory.
So you think Chicago's going to win this? What do you think the scoreline will be?
Oh, really close.
Really close.
Really close. Yeah.
Well,
One goal.
One goal.
Yeah, 1 goal.
Not a draw.
Not a draw. Not a draw. I mean, who can predict the draw?
Yeah.
That's like.
Well, let me ask you this. We saw last year, Midwest United. Gio Garcia was coaching him. And he played a couple of games. But this year, Hector Fernandez is the coach. But he wasn't there. He wasn't at the last game.
There. And
I think we saw some impact on that. Players that needed a break. There's things that it just is so helpful to have a futsal coach coaching, and that's all they're doing. Do you what kind of impact do you think that will have on this game? Like if we don't see Hector at this game, and it's the same scenario. Like, how does that impact them? Because I think that's something that you don't really see very easily, like how that impacts. But it really does have a really big impact on the game.
So coaching and impact and the difference. If we don't see Hector Fernandez for this game, Chicago House has 3 coaches. They're the first team to have an independent goalie coach.
Oh wow!
They have a goalie coach. So it's like, wow, like the depth you talk about, like what they bring and the culture and the community that they bring to the table. And it's really about this commitment to futsal and doing it in a way that really shows that commitment even to the goalies, to have a goalie coach, like somebody completely dedicated. So I know we have other teams that focus on the goalies and their coach probably helps the goalies, but to have Raul Andrade, I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, but he is excited for the opportunity to get an interview with us and to go into his passion of keeping, but put him on with Ramon Hernandez and Gil Da Silva, and you have a fully fleshed out roster of coaches. And that's a huge advantage for Chicago House going into this game in a way that, Gio had a great game as a player, against Shoreline. He really, really solid. But you're right. So many times when some of these decisions had to be made, he's in the game. Yeah. And so if you don't have that that objective viewpoint where you're not really in the game and you're observing everything from an outsider's perspective, and you're seeing who's tired, who needs a sub, do we need to change our tactics, like are we getting beat on the right side, like what's happening, are we losing our marks, what's going on with our defensive structure,
do we need to make a goalkeeper switch
change
in the middle of the game, things
so
like that.
There's all of those things that you don't really have time to think about when you're playing. And it's one of the biggest challenges. Anytime that you have like a player coach and you're on the court, you're splitting responsibilities. And so now you're not even able to play at your highest level because you're still having to coach.
I mean, think about the team that has shown themselves to be the top of the league. What is one of their greatest assets? They have a coach who has been in futsal for a long time, and that is all he does when it comes to the game.
Yeah, that's it. And it's the preparation, it's the tactics. It's one of the things.
Of course, Fabian Rodriguez of Ole.
Yeah, Fabian Rodriguez for Ole. We one of the things I love to do before we call a game is we talk to the coaches and we get to ask them about their tactics and their perspective, their approach to the game. And every time I talk to Fabian, he lays out his tactics for the game, but then you see it come to action on the court. And then if something's not going right, you see the adjustments that he's making. And to do that, you can't be playing the game. To be able to make those adjustments and to be able to see that and then to be able to communicate it on the sideline to your team, because that's the other part. Because even if you're playing the game and you're like, okay, we need to make these tactical adjustments, you don't have time to relay that messaging to the team because you're playing the game. So being on the sideline and being able to coach your team is such a vital aspect. And in so many ways, we probably did not highlight enough the impact that Fabian had on Ole's success. But, it goes without saying. Like, the reason that they're so successful, they have great goalies. They have great defensive players. They have great technical skills, right? All of the things we said about these other teams, they literally do it the best across all of it. Right? And like Rudy's got the futsal godfather. Yeah, like that's the other part too. It's almost unfair comparing or speaking about Ole when talking about all these other clubs because they've been doing it for so long. Yeah. And a lot of these players that played for Midwest United and for Shoreline played with Ole back in the ABK days. So the futsal experience with Ole predates Ole, and we're really looking at decades of experience in the Grand Rapids community.
So that is a little tidbit about coaching and what we might see this weekend. It could be three coaches. In one sense, it could be three coaches versus a player coach. Yep. And like that actually would have a huge impact on a huge impact on the game. And that's something I think we'll see in more of these games. Midwest United with Gio being a player coach there, they're not the only team that has that. They do have a coach that is I'm assuming is going to be at all the rest of the games, but Satoru Matsushima does it. We see, Jeremy Kleppel is not rostered as a coach, but who's talking in the timeouts? Jeremy Kleppel's talking in the timeouts. So it's like we do see that. Matt Nolan for Innovation City, he plays as well.
Yeah, and he's not rostered this weekend against Detroit Imperials. So maybe we'll see a difference there too. Yeah. Like we didn't really call that out, and maybe that will be part of the difference that gives them the opportunity to be competitive with Imperial.
Yeah, we talked about that match already. Let's go to the next match. We got one more after this. 7 p.m. Saturday in the Lansing City Arena. Jenga gets their first road test. They're 1-0 coming back to the arena. If you're Jenga, what are your eyes set on right now?
Who is coming and who will play in goal? Like that's, for me, that is so important. We talked about goalkeeping a lot already, but one of the biggest challenges for Jenga last year was who showed up for their away games, and that's why their road record was horrendous, and this is their first time going on the road this season.
They didn't win one on the road, right? No.
So really bad. Well, they did win one.
Well,
they won one against Midwest, and that was it. So, but every single road game, they had availability concerns.
That one was close, though.
It was close. That was the only game of the season for Midwest that was close.
It was close.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, they showed up with that game. I think they had 8 players for that game. And they normally, last year, we didn't have the roster caps that we have now. Last year, they were bringing 16, 18 players to games. And then for that game against Midwest, they had 8. You know, it's just really frustrating to see how challenging the road journey was for them as far as like player availability. And so that's what I want to see from them, because it's one of the things they know is a problem, they know is a challenge. They've had months to prepare, and they've had months to get ready for this challenge, and that is really going to determine their success this season, is how they show up on the road. Because if they replicate what they did last year, there's not going to be a Midwest in the league this year to get a victory on. They're not going to make the playoffs if they don't show up on the road. And, you know, barring being that 6 out of the 8 teams make it, maybe they'll sneak in with the losing record. Yeah. But they're going to have they're going to drop some games at home, because some of these teams are prepared for the road challenge. Will Jenga be prepared for the road challenge? Yeah. So that for me is the biggest test this weekend.
So Jenga coming back into the Lansing City Arena, they did last year. Really got handled for most of the game. Yeah. So they're going to see if they could write a different story this time. For Lansing City, this is the first time we're seeing them in regular season action. We saw them in the summer. We still saw some of the immaturity and defensive and goalkeeper mistakes through the summer. We saw some added players. Rafael Hernandez on loan. We saw Diego Bilbadia enter the mix. We saw difficulties of them like kind of merging in. Now it's like, okay, it's time, right? In the off season, the youth players for Lansing City developing. You know, do we see that almost like hump kind of
next step?
Yeah. Do we see that next step
from them?
Do we see, you know, the talented youth players, Drew Barney, Jack Fisher, and more? Do we see them, you know, play with an experience? And I mean, do they grow a little bit? You know, like physically, are they able to stand up to the men of Jenga that Jenga brings? You know, do we see improvements at the goalkeeper position? You know, do we see? I mean, there was one player that we heard from the coach from the Lansing City squad that is coming in. We don't know if he's rostered for this weekend. We would think that he would be. Alec Nas, who is like, man, this guy could be something special.
Yeah. So only time will tell. He has a deep background playing at a really high level of soccer. But will that translate to futsal? Yeah. Will that translate? And I think that's one of the things that we've seen some players bring that in and immediately have an impact, like Kai Yamazaki, this just over the summer. And he was a really good contributor for Jenga this weekend. Will Alec have that same transition? But for me, one of the biggest, like Luciano Cernuda missing them, that's huge. I feel
news to Luke.
Yeah.
He's looking for Luciano to step up and have a big year. Luciano is a little bit busy.
Yeah, so Luciano Cernuda is actually going to be playing at Juventus Youth Academy, which is incredible when you talk about everything that we've seen with growth and development in this league, and especially at Lansing City, the commitment to growth and development, to now have a player that played in the FCS, played MLS Next for Midwest United, is now at the Youth Academy at Juventus. It says a lot about what the competition in this league has done to help grow players. You know, so like, even though it's disappointing to not have him in the FCS, it is just incredible that he's got this opportunity to play for this youth academy overseas, right? He's going to be in Italy. And so now another player that's going to step into his position on that first line for Lansing City. We saw him last year, but he was somebody that came later in the season. We didn't see have a huge impact, is Alessandro Blanco. And he's somebody I'm really excited about, because we talk about all of the technical skills out of house, and we talk about ball skills like Jair Real just basically controls the ball like as if it's attached to his foot. Alessandro Blanco is somebody that's on that level. He's on that level of technical skill that he's able to control the ball and really do what he wants with it. And we saw some of it last year, but one of the challenges for Lansing City is they have so much depth in the way that they run an offense that it's really hard to integrate somebody in the middle of the season. And so it took him a lot of time really to understand what they were trying to do on the ball and off the ball, and to be able to work in the flow defensively as well. And so now he's starting to take those steps up. So Alec Nas, yes, one thing, but I'm really excited to see Sandro Blanco and what he does on the ball.
And we've heard that he has made big steps up in the offseason. Also in the chat, Ali Ahmed is also on there. He is I don't know if he'll be rostered or not, but that's a name that has been around Lansing City before. That he's on the roster as well. When I think about Lansing City, I think one of the other questions is, will they score when the pressure goes on Jeremy?
Yeah.
Right? We saw this all year last year. I mean, we heard it straight from the mouth of Aaron Gomez.
Yeah.
The game plan was stop Jeremy, right? And you watch that game and you can see it, and you see it like,
it takes a team.
Like definitely like best player in the FCS, one of the best in the States. And, he's been on the U.S. national team, part of that run. But like he draws so much attention, and we saw in the clip with Shoreline Aldoni Mendez how he was pulling one of the players, and that opened up space. And Jeremy, sometimes he's pulling not just one. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's more than that. So will Lansing City be able to finish when Jeremy is having one or more extra defenders cover him? Can Lansing City get it done?
Yeah, and it's one of the things. Jack Fisher and Drew Barney, they weren't always available for matches last year. And a lot of times they'd have one of them available, not both of them. And the way that they play off of each other so well, if they're available for matches, I think we will see that continued growth out of them, especially when we started keeping defensive stats. Somebody like Jack Fisher, somebody that really stood out with the blocks and the steals. So a lot of times he plays fixo, and he just does such a phenomenal job of understanding positioning, and that's a big part of it too. So it's not just the creating when the defenses collapse on Jeremy, but it's really being able to create opportunities in transition. And when you get somebody like Jack Fisher winning balls in transition, winning 1v1 battles, he's able to make those full-length court passes to Drew Barney. And that's the part where Luciano Cernuda really played off of them well, and they were really hitting some high gears over the summer. But now without him, will we see somebody like Blanco step up into that goal-scoring prowess?
We'll see how this one turns out this Saturday, 7 p.m. Lansing City hosting Jinga. We have one more match to get to before we end it out. Chicago House, they have back-to-back. And this is, just in case, for those of you that don't know, which this isn't like public information necessarily in the sense that it's easily accessible, but the teams are largely involved in like when their games are scheduled.
Yep.
So Chicago House decided they wanted to go back-to-back. They're playing on Saturday and on Sunday. This one says Saturday, November 9th. It should say Sunday, November 9th. So they play on Saturday against Midwest, Sunday against Shoreline City. They go back-to-back, and it's a FCS Showcase semifinal rematch, which was a 19-goal game.
Yeah, and I'm with Aaron Gomez. I think this is the game to circle. Yeah, this is the game to watch right here.
It's the only one on Sunday.
It's the only one on Sunday, so everybody's going to watch it.
Who cares what's on the pointy ball at that time?
Like, this is going to be such a matchup. Shoreline has so much talent, and they showed how well they can play. And I think out of Shoreline City, every single game we're going to see them get a little bit better. Every single game this season, we're going to see them get a little bit better because they haven't had a lot of time as a club to prepare and to practice and to game plan. And the more time, they do have a dedicated coach in Cody Harrell. And so give him more time to cook, give him more time to game plan. And over the season, I think we're going to see some things out of Shoreline City, and I think they're going to continue to grow and show us what they're capable of. And so I already have talked about how incredible I think Chicago House is. I think Shoreline's also on that level, and we're going to have an incredibly competitive matchup that's going to remind us a lot of that showcase game.
One thing that I think is going to make a difference for me in this match is we saw big shifts in the game this past weekend, Midwest and Shoreline, when their first line was off, or more particularly like when Aldoni Mendez and Chris Mendez were off. It was so interesting. Aldoni wasn't really, I think I don't know if it's fitness or age or whatever it might be, but he wasn't on for much of the second half until about like the 12.5-minute mark, and that's kind of when they went on their run. I think this is a factor for them, is like what does that, what does their second line look like? What does it look like to rest their some of their best players? I think that's they have we saw Miguel Cervantes. He's so comfortable coming up, playing on his feet. Are they able to continue that pressure like they did against Midwest with that and not concede? Because conceding can be so easy when you do that. I think those are going to be some key factors for what Shoreline does this weekend.
We didn't get a chance. So I know Aiden Hendrick talked about the depth of goalie for Shoreline City. So Fabian Rodriguez had an outstanding showcase for them. Like, he played really great in goal and no relation to Fabian Rodriguez, the coach.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Fabian Rodriguez, he plays goalie for Shoreline City as well, and we didn't see him in action at all. Who's making the trip for them? So we don't know their roster yet for this weekend, but they have a lot of talent on Shoreline, and so whether it's Miguel in goal or Fabian in goal, Aiden, are you making the trip out there? Who
I think
knows?
He said earlier he's not. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, and so I think that's the other factor of this too, is as much as we talked about roster availability for Jenga, we've yet to see Shoreline City go on the road.
That's true.
And we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. Some of these people that this is their first time playing in the FCS, at least in the new kind of structure with Aldoni and Alex Mendez, are they going to be available for all of these road games?
Yeah.
Will they be able to travel? Because, again, without having them on the court, it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, no, I think that is a key point, that we will see how Shoreline travels, and we saw it was tough for Innovation, and Chicago House, they'll have their test later, having some of the longest distances to go for their road games. But that rounds out game number 4 of the weekend, and this is, I don't even know if we had one weekend last year that had 4 games in the regular season. I don't think we did. Maybe we had near the end of the season, we had like 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday.
Because there were some times when Midwest played 3 games, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So
maybe.
so we did, but we never had 4 highly competitive games.
Yeah.
So we could say that. So that's one of the things coming at you fast and hot this futsal season, is the competition is going to another level. So you can see the players kind of like stepping up. The fact that we could even say that the lowest talent teams are potentially Innovation City and Jenga this year, like, that says a lot about where the teams are going, right? And I think both of them would be really frustrated that I even said that to begin with. And so that shows you how competitive this season will be. Yeah, it's going to be a wild season. And we're just getting started. We got like 30 more weeks to go.
And we still have, Olay hasn't seen any action yet. And after this weekend, are they going to be the only team?
Yeah, they'll be the only team that hasn't played. And they play next weekend.
So they'll be playing next weekend. So jam-packed futsal in the FCS this weekend. And, I think you're right that things are heating up. I think level is improving. And I think also things are getting exposed as well. Like, I think with how things are progressing, weaknesses that could maybe be pushed aside a little bit, I think those things are going to be exposed, and it's going to be harder for some teams to win than it was before.
And this is the other factor, right? We talk about having a dedicated coach, and this is the part where I think having a dedicated coach is going to be so important moving forward. All of these games are televised, so they will be able to watch. Well, hopefully.
We're trying.
Hopefully all the games are televised. But even last year, the games were televised. So now you're starting to have tape on these teams. And that's a big thing in any sports environment, to be able to go watch the tape, be able to go pull up the tape, be able to go analyze the game. If you're a coach in this league and you're not watching the games that your opponent has played, if you're not watching the games, if your opponent played last year and analyzing what they did and trying to understand it, shame on you. Like, go watch the games. Go watch the games, break it down, understand what teams are doing. It's so important to being successful, is understanding what teams are trying to do, and then for you to be able to game plan either to overcome that or to figure out how they're going to try to stop you from doing what you do really well, right? It's basically just a chess match, and you just have to know your opponent.
And Luke Miller in the chat, endurance of a team. We'll see how that factor plays in as it goes on. You know, as you have to show up week in and week out. At the end of the show here, last word or phrase, sentence. Last word.
Hype for
Hype.
this weekend.
For this
Hype.
weekend.
Hype.
My last word is 4.
4. Oh, 4.
4 of them.
4.
4 games.
4 games. All right, so 4 games. How many goals are going to separate all of the teams when
4.
it's all said and done? 4 goals. 4 goals. 4 goals between all 4 games. Between all 4 games. How
So,
close
like,
do you think?
what's the goal differential going to be total across all 4 games?
all 4 games.
Oh, geez. Let's say 3, 7. Let's say like 8 to 11.
Okay, 8 to 11.
Yeah. Maybe. Something like that. That's crazy. All right, awesome. We're going to wrap it up there. Thanks so much for tuning in to the third half this week. We'll see you guys next week, and we'll see you guys on Saturday and Sunday for FCS action this weekend. I hope you guys are pumped for week 2. I know that I am pumped for week number 2. That's all. We'll see you guys later.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get